July, covering all things professional wrestling. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
What's happening, Nation? It is Saturday, and I have a glass of wine in my hand, and I am sitting here joined by my friend, John in South Jersey. This is becoming quite the regular thing that it's
and I ain't
just
mad
the
at it.
two of us.
Yes, I think we are the hottest, newest tag team duo, taking on any and all comers to the Nation's Corner. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Here we are
again. Here we are again.
Here we are again.
You can be the Rhea Ripley to my Damian Priest.
Oh, the new Terra Twins. All right, yeah, I like it.
Yes, I like it.
So
hey,
obviously,
they can have a T-shirt. Why can't we?
Well, now we gotta find a T-shirt guy. That's all.
I got a guy.
Okay. So let's get right into it. The big news this week that we are all so very excited for in the nation is Busted Open 24/7.
Yes.
We freaking did it. It
Pro
is
Wrestling Nation.
Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7.
This Tuesday, July 1st, we are 24/7 live and can't be more excited for Dave and Bully and Tommy and Mark and Thunder and Nick and Justin and Jonathan and our good friend Andre the Producing Giant and Kelly and sorry, still fuck you Paul, but still kind of excited for him. This is so well deserved, and Dave's monologue Wednesday morning when the announcement was made was absolutely perfect. And I'll admit it, I ain't afraid to say it at all. I got a little misty. Might have been a little something leaking from the eye, a little something in my eye, but
yeah. So with my job, like my mornings start off like immediately. I get in at 8 a.m., some days at 9, and it's like our busiest time of the day is first thing in the morning. There's always a whole bunch of crap to do when we first get there, and then sometimes it gets less busy in the afternoon. So here I am there at work on Thursday, like trying to do a whole bunch of stuff pretty quickly. And like I'm just standing there at the counter, just like my eyes are welling up. My coworker probably, if he noticed, probably was like, "What's wrong with her?" But
boy, she watched a puppy video again.
Yeah. What an accomplishment. And I don't know if people like really realize how big of a deal it is that there's one dedicated channel on SiriusXM satellite radio for all pro wrestling content. We were talking about it on Zoom the other night, and I'll give Front Row credit for this term because I think it's a perfect way to sum it up. This channel will now be the hub of pro wrestling in the industry, pro wrestling talk. We had, as far as 24-hour nonstop wrestling content, like we have the WWE Network, we have apps like TNA and ROH and IWTV that we can go on and like watch wrestling anytime. But there's never been anything like this before in the wrestling industry that is like live content every day. And like multiple different programs will be on live every day. They'll replay them and then the live after dark every night. Like there has never been anything before like this, where it's like nonstop wrestling talk, like not just going and watching a show in the archives, nonstop wrestling talk on such a major platform. Like this puts wrestling up there with the other major sports. Like NFL has their own channel, NBA has their own channel, MLB has their own channel, NHL has their own channel.
Yeah.
This puts wrestling right up there on an even playing field. And like we talked about it tons, that no other sports show on the SiriusXM platform gets the fan engagement that Busted Open does.
Sure. And
it's just so cool.
Time again, we have proven it, us and all of us wrestling fans have proven time and time again. I'll put the wrestling fan base, IWC aside, or in spite of the IWC, I should say, I'll put our fan base against any other major sport as far as engagement, as far as dedication, as far as passion about the product, good and bad, but that's another story. But, it wasn't an accident that Busted Open 24/7 was trending with everything else in the world going on this past week.
Yeah.
Was trending, number 3 the one day? And number 4,
it got up to number 3 at the highest point, which was pretty incredible because that was the day that there was a lot of global political stuff happening.
Exactly. It wasn't, it was not a slow news day by any means. No. So, and for all those quote unquote sports talk experts that say, well, listen, it was also up against the NHL and the NBA draft. And we still trended over them. So
so I want to point out this comment from Steven because when was it? Wednesday. It had popped into my head shortly after Busted Open was over. It popped into my head and I was like, I wonder, it's been a long time since I looked. I wonder how many followers Busted Open has on Twitter. Obviously, that's the main platform that they interact on, but obviously they're also on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. But yeah, like I wanted to see like how many followers does Busted Open have compared to how many followers like Sirius's NFL radio page has or NBA radio, like their Twitter pages. And Busted Open at that time when I looked Wednesday afternoon had more followers on their Twitter page than NBA radio and MLB radio combined, and nearly as much, like within 10K, I think it was, the amount of followers that NFL radio has. So that's major. Like that's telling you something, that one show has as big of a reach as an entire channel for one of the major sports. So yeah, that's just kind of like looking up the numbers. I was like, oh my God, that's pretty crazy.
And what continues to, and I shouldn't even say amaze at this point, what continues to impress me is this is not overnight. This has been a very long, steady build. But so to all the people out here that are new wrestling fans or finally realizing what we have known, some of us, for many, many years, wrestling is cool. Wrestling is fun. Wrestling is fantastic entertainment.
I mean, O'Shea Jackson Jr. said Dave LaGreca made wrestling cool again, so I believe
there you go. And that's Ice Cube's son. So
I'm not disagreeing with O'Shea Jackson Jr. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But so all you new fans, welcome. There's plenty of room for you to sit, relax, have a smoke, get a drink, get comfortable. You're gonna be here a while. And the other thing is, where the fuck have you been? You know, how deep was your head in the sand to realize that wrestling is not just for the nerds, for the outcasts. We are. Right. And guess what? Now you're begging to be in the cool kids table. But now we turn the tables on you. Because we do accept. We do welcome everyone and anyone. Doesn't matter where you're from. I was thinking about this when I was watching Night of Champions today on Peacock for WWE in Saudi Arabia. I have a connection with a global set of people now. I have a connection with someone in Saudi Arabia, in any one of the European countries, Japan, Australia, Mexico. Well, I've had a connection to Canada, but that's a different story. But talk about just completely different people, race, gender, color, creed, religion, doesn't matter. We all have one thing in common, and that is an enjoyment and a love for professional wrestling. And my other comment, and I hate to say this, folks, we as Americans need to do something. We are proverbially getting the Stone Cold Steve Austin mud hole stomped in our asses by these overseas and European crowds and getting it walked dry. We are no longer the dominant wrestling fans on earth. And I'm not happy with this. I'm not comfortable with this. You used to be a number one. We need to stop being the fat, lazy Americans we are and step up and really start just who runs shit around here. We set the standard, and we're not, because these crowds, and I get it, these people, and it's very easy for us to be complacent because we're really spoiled for riches when it comes to wrestling. We have so much literally at our fingertips. But and I get it, but to still see how these people get excited, granted, WWE or any of them, AEW, or they're not on every week in other countries and stuff, so it is a big deal for them. But we got to step up. That's plain and simple.
You're very right, and what you said about like having connections with people across the globe now because of this sport, it's really true. And I never thought of it that way before. All the other major sports that we watch in this country are American. I mean, hockey, you have Canadians and you have Russians and you have, people from other countries. Same with baseball. Baseball is a pretty international sport. So you have players from elsewhere, but it doesn't really have the same connectivity that wrestling does. That, we are on any given show that we watch from any company, you see wrestlers on the show from all different places in the world. And when we're online talking in communities, we talk to people from all different places in the world. And when you go to shows, there's often, especially at larger shows, you're seeing lots of people from different places come to shows. And it is really connective like that.
Yeah, well, we saw, Deb, you and I, and a bunch of us saw that firsthand 2 years ago at WrestleMania weekend in Philly. There were people from literally everywhere, and just there for that, and you're right. We see this that people are willing to spend real money and travel and do whatever it takes to see a show live. There's not really too many other sports that I can think of, maybe outside of soccer in Europe. But even it's way different to jump on the plane here and fly 6 hours to the West Coast through the Las Vegas, where in 6 hours you can go from England all the way down to Italy. So it is
crazy.
But one other comment I will make, and this really hit home for me on a lot of levels. When Bully came on Wednesday morning after Dave made the speech, he made a very accurate analogy to how this felt. And I recall the famous Paul Heyman State of the Union address prior to for ECW's very first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, 1997. Yes, I was there. Yes, it was amazing. Having been someone that lived through all that and was a part of it. What he said really hit home for me, because it's kind of the same way. This was a little tiny 1 hour little show 1 day a week that was fighting against all these other big established sports for space and for room. And it started off very small, and small bingo halls and VFWs and armories all over. And then it grew, and then keep growing. And basically Dave was delivering that monologue was his State of the Union speech, and Bully summed it up perfectly. Heyman has a famous line in that speech, where tonight is the night that we say, fuck you, you're wrong. Fuck you, we're right. And that's exactly how this felt and how it should be treated. This is, this is us saying to the establishment, we are the counterculture. We are the culture now. We are not the counterculture. And everybody wants a piece of it. Looking now, and as much as we gripe about it, you see advertising, big advertising dollars and involved in it. And I know not everybody likes all the logos in the ring and the Slim Jim table. Everybody seems to wind up going through every week on WWE, but that's whatever. Yeah, they pay money for it. Let them do what they want. But here's something that was very recent. They had Fanatics Fest, or another Fanatics Fest recently at the Javits, I believe that was the Javits Center in New York. And say what you want about Fanatics, they get like legit legendary sports people in for these events and stuff, and had some heavy hitters. But the one thing that from every video clip, every tweet, every short I saw, what was the one thing everyone, including those sports legends, were absolutely going batshit crazy and losing their minds for? Making a WWE type entrance.
Yeah. Even if they weren't necessarily good at it.
It didn't matter, but they were awful more than anything else. But for the fact that they were excited and wanted to do it.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
You know what it makes me think of, and I've heard, kind of a lot of people discuss this thought, is that a lot of regular sports athletes just like want to be pro wrestlers. It's like there's something about it that you take a regular athlete in a regular sport and they're just playing the sport.
Right.
Wrestling takes it to the next level where they're performing the sport, but they're also performing in front of a crowd and the live interaction and all the other elements that come along with wrestling that aren't in a regular sport. Like when a football player is on the field, he's not actively engaging the crowd and changing what he's doing based on the crowd reaction and and performing to that level. It's like this, we talk about it, it's like this odd mix of like sports and theater. That it's just, there's nothing else like it. And you think of like when you talk to non-wrestling fans and they like want to know why you like it, and there's really no way to describe it that is understandable to people who don't get it. It's true.
And there's two things. A, I feel bad for those people. And two, they probably never will. So don't even waste your oxygen. Save it for something more important. But Paul Heyman said it in his Hall of Fame speech. This beautiful performance art known as professional wrestling, because that's exactly what it is. It's performance art. And now that we have a dedicated, not just a channel and a space for that, and the new programming coming along with it. I'm very glad.
More room for activities.
Yes, there is so much room for activities.
Yes, but, it opens up the possibilities, and because they're not. I know Dave said this in the article from Associated Press that I saw. That because they're not tied to one specific company, that they can give their honest thoughts and analysis and promote the entire wrestling industry as a whole. They're not just a WWE, produced show. They're not an AEW produced show. They're overall, they're going to get interviews, and we already see that, but they get interviews from people from all companies. But now with the expanded programming, we're going to be able to get so much more of it. And there's being that now they have their own dedicated channel, that shows the demand for it.
Sure.
And someone
Absolutely.
said in the chat earlier that it sucks for the people that are fans of the MMA and boxing shows. But unfortunately, it is what it is, that those sports, MMA and boxing and UFC right now, are just not as popular as pro wrestling. There's a much bigger demand for pro wrestling, and there's a much bigger demand for pro wrestling talk. Like if there was enough fans of MMA today that they went and campaigned for several years to get their own channel, maybe they'd have their own channel.
Right.
But obviously there's not the demand for that. There's the demand for pro wrestling right now.
And if you go back to even earlier times prior to Fight Nation, when it was SiriusXM Rush,
yeah,
that was kind of their calling card. It was that they had their own dedicated MMA show and their own dedicated boxing show. Now, granted, it wasn't anywhere, but so in one way, it's like, read the writing on the wall, fellas.
right.
The fake sport is slowly but surely kicking your ass, and becoming bigger and better and stronger, and
yeah,
but I'm
and whether we like it or not, there's big money in pro wrestling now. It might be to our detriment, but to our bank account's detriment.
Well, that's very true. That's why you should support indie wrestling. For one WWE ticket, you can go to about 7 indie shows and be right up front in and part of the action, whether you want to be or not.
Speaking of right up front in part of the action, last week on Sunday, I went to Ace Wrestling in Teaneck, New Jersey. I had to think about it for a second. Went to see Cade Lothbrock wrestle. We had interviewed him a few months ago, so if anyone missed that, go back in our YouTube and check that out. So I went to see him wrestle, and it was a small show, but it was fun. Small shows are so much fun. That's what I love about wrestling, is that like it doesn't matter if there's 30 people in the audience at a VFW hall, or if there's 45,000 people at a stadium. It's fun no matter what. And when I was at that show, I was up front and part of the action during Cade's match with Bam Sullivan. I can't believe I'm remembering all of this off the top of my head. I was sitting right there in the front with the barricade right in front of me, and Cade came down and took the shoe right off of my foot and smushed it in the other guy's face, which I know does not smell great. So props to that guy for taking my shoe to the face.
Trust me, Bam Sullivan, if you know the name or know the person like I do, that was very tame. As bad as it may sound to you, it was very tame. The man says clutch your nuts for a reason. But
that's very true. But yeah, it was a fun show. And indie shows are great. Like we always talk about this. Indie shows are great. You get to be part of the show when you're in a small place. Yeah,
it is. They are so much fun.
So let's move on now that we kind of rambled on and on about Busted Open 24/7. Let's go on to the discussion topic that we wanted to talk about this week. We are 6 months into 2025. So we just kind of wanted to reflect on the year, the first 6 months of this year, our favorite stuff, kind of general thoughts on how everything's going. So I'll make a point first, and then I'll throw it to you, John. Overall this year, kind of my general vibe of this year, I'm wearing my AEW shirt tonight for a reason. I just think AEW has kicked ass this year.
I agree.
Since the beginning of the year, when they started the live stream on Max, the simulcast, they moved to smaller venues. A lot of the storylines have kicked up a notch, a couple notches. We've seen so much great stuff from AEW this year. And just overall, like, my just whole vibe of the last 6 months is that if you're not paying attention to AEW, or if you haven't in a while, this is the perfect time to start. This really is the perfect time to start paying attention if you're not. Yeah, that's the first point I'll make. So John, go ahead.
Right. I could not agree more. Absolutely. We have, and myself on this very show and other places, I have been more than critical of AEW at many times for various reasons. But I absolutely agree. They are finally, and if it's Tony, and I'll say Tony Khan, since he runs everything, it starts with him all the way down. They are starting to get it. They are starting to figure it out. And in the Steel Bullies term, they are tightening the screws and figuring out what's working and what's not working. And it's more so that, okay, we're just going to do this. Right. Well, that doesn't work. Well, we're going to do this. No, it's been more evolutional. Things have been changing on the fly. What is good? What is, what is working? What is engaging with the audience? What are the fans into? They're taking all that into account instead of basically Tony just saying, I'm going to make this match, this match, this match, and this match. And there you go.
Absolutely.
They're starting to really, like I said, they're starting to really figure it out. And we are winning. I'm very excited for All In Texas. I am. I think, and AEW has proven one thing more than anything is that their pay-per-views, regardless of who and what is on the card or why, they fucking deliver. Period. It may take you 8.5 hours to watch it, which on a school night on a Sunday is a little rough, but it's not. Even if you only watch parts of it or anything like that, you're still going to be very entertained because they are fantastic shows. And even now, they're tightening them screws. We used to have a big pay-per-view, and then we'd be anticipating or excited for the aftermath and get nothing. But now, they are. Here's that word again. AEW tells stories. Say it,
so. Oh my god. Can't believe we just said that.
They do, yeah, but it's true, and that's one of the things that's really making them. And I don't want to call it a resurgence because the interest and the core has always been there for them,
right?
But again, along with this other groundswell in general of professional wrestling, AEW figured, hey man, we got to do something to be a part of this groundswell or this tsunami. Shout out Thick Boy. We're gonna get plowed over by it. We're just gonna get swallowed up and left for dead. So props to absolutely AEW for getting it, starting to get it right and figuring it out.
Yeah, so I just want to point out Calvin's comment here, which I completely agree. And this is something that we've discussed and I've said a bunch of times, like, I completely understand that not everybody wants to watch a 5 or 6 hour wrestling show. I completely understand it. We get tired. We might have had a long day. We might have not been able to get a lot of sleep the night before. We might have to wake up the next morning. Mm-hmm. But overall, I am okay with a longer show if I'm getting my money's worth. If we're paying $50 for a pay-per-view, I'm getting my money's worth because the show is like pretty much mostly entertaining from beginning to end. Obviously with any show there might be a segment or so that is a little bit of a lull in the show. That's bound to happen. But pretty much with AEW pay-per-views, I am fully entertained from start to finish. So I don't mind a longer show if I'm entertained, if I'm having fun, if I'm having a good time and having an enjoyable evening, hanging out with my friends virtually.
Right.
The time I spend sitting there, I'd be watching something else. Like if I wanted to watch something else, but I'm tuned in and I'm interested and excited and having fun and entertained. And
right.
like,
You could be like our very own Neil and fall asleep live on Zoom.
Yeah. I'd rather watch a 6-hour AEW pay-per-view that keeps me entertained for the majority of it than a 2-hour show that I'm just sitting back and looking at my phone because I'm not interested.
Absolutely. Could not
So
agree with you.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, AEW is killing it this year. I think the lead to All In has been phenomenal. I think a lot of elements are coming together very nicely as the weeks go by, and we're only 2 weeks away now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but nothing in this whole world of wrestling has me more excited than All In right now, except a certain death match involving a certain person in a certain indie wrestling company.
Did you mean, and thanks for the segue, Deb, you mean these guys?
Yes.
Because that is my high point so far for this year.
Yes.
Listen, folks.
Let's talk about that.
If you're not, and now my camera is gonna fuck with me the rest of the show. If you're not on board with GCW, A, where the fuck have you been? And B, you are missing out. This is the last outlaw independent. We don't give a fuck. We're gonna do what we want to do. Wrestling promotion. Thank you, Nat. Yes, and that's just going currently. That's just a brand new storyline. These are the guys, and it's very near dear to me. Jim, Brett Lauderdale lives 2 towns away from me. I had literally seen that guy when he was a punk ass 20-year-old guy running around trying to put indie wrestling shows together. I've seen it since then to what he has now, and that has grown into a legitimate. Is it mainstream? No, not at all.
They don't want to be,
and they don't want to be. And I'm very blessed. I grew up with ECW, became a man, quote unquote, so to speak, with ECW. ECW went away, and I was very lost, and I literally lost interest in wrestling. WWE was not at all for me, and it wasn't even WWE then. It was WWF.
Right.
It was not doing anything for me. There was NWA, but that was regional and only on TV. They would only come up to Philadelphia or Baltimore once in a while. I had nothing that I could that really got me until, God bless Carrie Silken and Ring of Honor, and I found that connection again. And kept that connection. And I'm forever grateful to Carrie Silken and Joe Kopp for what they did with Ring of Honor. And current product aside, which everybody knows I have been my issues, and I will not go into now, but that filled that void. That filled that void that ECW left.
Yeah.
And did for the next, and that was through the Attitude Era, that was through Ruthless Aggression, the rise and fall of the WCW, the emergence of TNA, the reemergence of NWA. I always still had Ring of Honor. That went away. Now what?
Right.
Here is GCW. Here is this absolutely bare bones indie, we don't give a shit. This is what we do. Promotion that I have absolutely been on board with since day one and continue to be. And they have absolutely carved a niche out in this wide world of professional wrestling that, again, they don't have regular television. Their pay-per-views on Trailer Plus every week are their
practically regular television.
It is, because they run anywhere, everywhere, and everything else. And they have the balls to put on death matches. and put them out to a mainstream audience. Without GCW, we wouldn't have Bloodsport.
Yeah.
To the extent that we have it. Now going on 14 and 15. Oh, and by the way, they're doing it in Japan for the next show.
And not only Bloodsport, but Effie's Big Gay Brunch and Joey Janela's Spring Break and all of those.
Yes.
Yeah, for the culture. Like all of those shows that they put on during the collective has become such a pilgrimage just as much as WrestleMania is. It's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, the collective is honestly a big event for many people, myself included, as anything for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And that includes the Hall of Fame, WrestleMania itself, both nights, the SmackDown Friday night before, and the NXT show.
Yeah.
And I'm just as interested in what the collective offers prior to all that than that weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend to any wrestling fans out there. I mean, probably the more casual fans that only know of WWE are probably not watching us. But if there's anyone out there who only knows of WWE or even AEW as well, like the major TV wrestling, the GCW collective during WrestleMania weekend is just top notch. Like the best variety of different styles of wrestling and just some really, really fun stuff. Like fun and compelling storylines like that. This is one thing that GCW does so well is a lot of indies try to have ongoing storylines from show to show. But GCW has such compelling ongoing storytelling that I mean, just right now, the stuff with the Cogers and with KJ Orso and now people like Bear Bronson and Shotzi coming in, like they are just absolutely killing it. And I have to give a massive shout out to and credit to Matt Cardona. I didn't know about GCW before Matt Cardona showed up there in his match against Nick Gage. And prior to the pandemic, I'll also credit Busted Open with this as well. Busted Open is the major reason why I became aware of anything in wrestling outside of the WWE. I was excited when AEW started. I started listening to Busted Open just a couple years prior to AEW starting. But then when Matt Cardona left WWE and showed up on GCW, like that was the first time I'd ever heard of GCW. And I've been, on it, like I've been paying attention to them ever since. And I've talked about this before. This year, I kind of decided to make it a point to follow them more closely and watch more shows. And they're just having an incredible year. And the stuff that Cardona is doing with Shotzi right now, if anyone isn't like up on that, just look at their socials. It's just so fun. It's like the best that wrestling has to offer.
That gimmick machine has a brand new T-shirt. Yes. I broke Shotzi's arm.
Yes,
it's everything. He is everything that is good about wrestling. Period.
Yes,
and is he a show? Absolutely. But you know what? I want that T-shirt. I'm probably going to buy it just because I think it's so cool that they're doing something like this. And I know we said it, and I'm not going to beat up this dead horse subject. Just because a person is released from a company, that is no longer a death sentence at all. And a lot of that is due to, in fact, to Matt Cardona. He has showed everyone that you can be successful and relevant and prominent outside of the world of WWE or AEW for that matter, and still be getting booked in top-notch places and making the money and all that. He is, as much as I hate the guy sometimes just because he's married to Chelsea. It's, I have to absolutely tip my hat to him because, This guy has figured it out and continues to reinvent and keep it going. And anybody that doesn't follow his blueprint is, dude, get out of the business. Go start selling real estate or insurance. You're not made for wrestling, because he is literally laid out in front of you what to do. And again, and he's even made a joke of it. He has his Hi John Cena t-shirt as well after that. But and furthermore, he's being mentioned in interviews that he's not even a part of.
Yep.
Case in point, Cody Rhodes is "What do you want to talk about?" with Kevin Owens. Yes. He says, and Kevin made the comment, for the guy that doesn't want to be signed, he seems to talk about wanting to be signed a lot and all that. And that's two guys having a completely different conversation that doesn't even involve him with anything, and they're talking about it. So it's not hard to figure out, man. He has got himself and his gimmick and his game down pat, and he's using it not only to obviously help himself in position, but here's, everybody was so bummed that Shotzi got released and this and that, and oh God, what's going to happen? Here he is bringing her right back in. Now she's right back on everybody's minds and wanting to see what she's going to do.
Yeah, it's so true. And so as well, shout out to Elena Black, formerly Cora Jade. It's those days that we get like a batch of releases are tough, because you can't help but have that knee-jerk reaction of, oh my God, I can't believe they released this person. Like, why in the world would they do that? And I think Elena Black and Shotzi were both perfect examples of that. Like, I still can't believe that they just decided to just let them go like that. Because both of them obviously have a lot of talent and a lot of promise. I was a huge Cora Jade fan, even though I don't watch NXT. Like, I really, really like her. I from the moment I saw her, I was like, she is so talented and she's going to be a big star. Yeah. And now, she hit the ground running, man. Like, no rest. Absolutely.
Her and Shotzi wasted no time. And here's the other thing that everybody seems to forget. It's not like, say, 2-3 years from now, that they couldn't get re-signed or re-signed somewhere else.
Right.
And that, at the end of the day, you have to realize, but regardless of our investment or lack of investment in a particular person or character, it's a business. And right now there's, and great for us as fans, there is a gluttony of talent and shows available for people to work. If you don't particularly make a point in one promotion, you can go to another one and make your point there. Perfect point of that is Ricochet. And I still don't like him at all. I still don't like him. He's a little bald-headed, little Mexican jumping bean that flies all around. And besides he's married to Samantha, that's a different story. But I still don't like him. But I can't deny that the best movie he ever made was coming to AEW.
Absolutely.
I absolutely cannot deny that. And who knew that he can talk? Because he never did in WWE. Never, and for whatever reason, it doesn't matter now. But he is relevant and he is, popular and making a mark in AEW. And that's good for him.
Yeah.
Speaking of making a mark, and I'll transition from my GCW topic to this one. Let's talk about, arguably, and I don't think it's much of an argument, the best women's division in wrestling. And that is the NXT women's roster. Wow. Just what we have seen in the past 6 months. You have seen the arrival and rise of Julia. The arrival and rise of Stephanie Vaquer. Oh, by the way, congratulations, Julia, your new U.S. champion, women's champion, defeating Zelina Vega last night on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Stephanie Vaquer, now on the main roster, wrecking shop up there just like she did. Oh, by the way, the first 2-belt champion in NXT, both the women's and the women's North American champion. And no signs of slowing down with those two going up to the main roster. And you can also include Roxanne
Wait,
Perez.
she's not going to be forced to relinquish one of them? Because
No.
Stephanie was forced to relinquish one of them. I still don't understand that.
It was part of
It makes no sense.
But it's done with now. It's done with now.
Stephanie Vacqua.
Vacqua, yeah. I hope she gets a fucking devil's kiss to Nikki Bella and like just buries her head through the mat for that at Evolution. But again, and we've seen the arrival and rise of Jordan Grace, who is now going to be challenging for the women's NXT title at Evolution. By the way, that they're bringing back in a few weeks in August, part of Saturday Night's Main Event weekend.
July.
Yeah, July. Is it July? Yes, that's right.
Yes, because it's the day
around
after
the same time. All in.
Yeah.
So that and the just plethora of new talent, and granted, as very core NXT, male and female, that's what its primary job is always been, to develop that next set of talent, that next set of stars, that those people that were going to step up and fill the roster, and they just continue to absolutely dominate, especially. And I know you're not able and don't watch on Tuesday nights, Deb, but say if there's 10 segments on NXT, 7 of them are women.
Yeah.
And that's, so, and again, none of this has any signs of slowing down. And that it's just fantastic. And here is, the women have me more interested in NXT than the men do. And
that's
that
what I
includes
hear.
the fact, and that's for the fact that an NXT WWE / signed talent is the TNA champion Trick Williams, and all that. And that's another thing that is a great 6 months. Is I know we had our doubts, and some people might not be too on board with it yet, but it's been really good, this TNA NXT / partnership and cooperation. It's produced, if nothing else, it's produced some very interesting stories and matches, and again further proves that WWE is not a bubble anymore. That and we've even seen it more recently with AAA and the Worlds Collide show, and that partnership, it's wide open. Everything is possible now. There's no such thing as, I wish that would happen, because, well, it might. It just, at this point, anything's possible, and it just might happen. Just, stay tuned.
So it's an interesting topic to me, because I have some feelings, as Sam
Do
Roberts
I need to hit the
says.
siren?
We need the siren. I have some feelings.
Okay.
While it is refreshing, I guess would be the word I could use, that WWE stopped isolating themselves in their own bubble and ignoring the rest of the pro wrestling world. It's also, I don't know how to put it. Like, when the TNA partnership started, I was so into it. Like, it was, it was unprecedented. It was really cool. And now, like, I think, this is just my opinion for me personally. A lot of the wrestlers that were the reasons that I tuned into TNA are no longer there. And the show is like 75% NXT wrestlers now. The TNA title is held by an NXT person, and just on NXT, like it's practically just a secondary NXT title now. You know, I don't know. I have complicated feelings about it. I don't hate it, but I'm not as enthused as I thought I would be.
Is it?
And with AAA, it's not a partnership; it's a buyout. And it was quite interesting to me to see the posts about when AEW was in Mexico for Worlds Collide, Grand Slam with CMLL, that CMLL was handing out little flyers to everyone in the crowd that pretty much said, like, we are stronger when it's an equal partnership. We work together. This partnership is not for sale. So it seems like CMLL was intending on making a statement that it is, you know, that they think that their partnership is more optimal because it is a partnership. It's not a buyout. AEW is not taking them over. And that's what we saw with AAA, that WWE purchased AAA. It's not a partnership. And, you know, it still remains to be seen about how that will go. The first show was very successful. But there was also a lot of, like, Denise Salcedo herself said there was a lot of mixed feelings amongst the Mexican fans about it. So yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. We'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. But for me, kind of reflecting on how, you know, the last 6 months and how everything's gone, it feels like WWE is almost on the attack and building kind of building their network and almost making an attempt to squeeze AEW out of it. But now we have two major global alliances. We have AEW partnering with New Japan and CMLL, and we have WWE partnering with TNA and buying AAA. So we have two major global alliances. So that makes wrestling even more global than it already was. That, you know, just after Grand Slam Mexico, I saw so many people online saying that they loved the show so much that they subscribed to CMLL for the first time. They had never watched CMLL before. And they absolutely loved it. And it made them fall in love with lucha wrestling even more. So yeah,
who knew wrestling was popular in Mexico? Who knew?
I mean, well, if you listen to some WWE people, they would say that they put lucha wrestling on the map this year.
Yeah, and those are the same people that said Eric Bischoff came up with the idea of the cruiserweights, and we all know that's a lie.
Right.
We have evidence of such, but
yeah. I have mixed feelings about the whole TNA thing.
I get it, and I understand it, and on many of your points, I agree with you, but I am still very interested and optimistic on how everything plays out, because this is all of these relationships, whether, you know, with all
everything
these
is a work in progress.
It is a work in progress, and I have complete faith. Like I've said about many other things, I have complete faith that it might not make a lot of sense or be good right now, but it will be. Or if it isn't, they'll figure out what isn't and fix it and make it good. I have absolutely complete faith in all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like AEW and CMLL kind of made a statement with their show. You know, it like Worlds Collide and Grand Slam happened so close to each other.
Sure.
Like it was, you know, like within a week, right? It was just the following week that Worlds Collide was.
I believe so, yes.
So yeah, I think that AEW and CMLL was absolutely strategically making a statement with the way that show went, the way the show opened with Hangman speaking Spanish and speaking to the Spanish speaking audience predominantly. And I I think that it was very intentional that they wanted to make a statement, and the statement that they were making was that they are doing it differently than WWE is. That WWE is doing it one way and they're doing it another way.
Yes. And companies taking, shots or doing things against one another is not new.
Oh, no, of course not.
Going all the way back, there wouldn't have been a Monday Night Wars if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff and WCW taking shots at WWE, and rightfully so. And being,
long before that.
Right. So it's nothing new.
Did you watch Queen of the Ring?
Huh?
Did you watch Queen of the Ring yet?
No. But
oh my God, you have to. It's on streaming now.
I know.
But anybody who watched that movie absolutely knows that, this shit is,
it's as
from
old
the
as
beginning of
itself.
the business.
Yeah, it's as old as wrestling itself. And me personally, I'm anything but tribal. And I think that, for lack of a better term, a little shit talking is healthy. If it fires you up and makes you say, well, no, that's not it. We're better. We'll prove it.
Right.
And it's true in sports, and anything like that. That if it fires you up and it makes you perform better, well, then mission accomplished. So, and I don't.
Absolutely.
All right, babe. All right. I know you're doing it, but I'm going to take the bait. Go fuck yourself. There, you happy now? How dare you, sir? You're looking to ban you for that. Take you out of here on your ass. Toss you out like Bully Ray did to Matt Cardona after he put him through a flaming table and dragged his ass out on the Swanson Avenue and left him there.
We were there.
Saw that live. Still smell that burning fucking tanning and baby oil.
Oh, it's so fun.
But
yeah. So this year has been there's been ups, there's been downs, there's been just really awesome stuff. There's some stuff that leaves us scratching our head, like the ending of WrestleMania. It's been a ride, man. It's been a ride.
It has.
We thought last year was crazy. This year is almost crazier.
Well, it's one of these things that and again, having grown up in ECW and now looking back on it, and I've said this many times, we have talked about it, and when people ask me about it and stuff, at the time, we had no idea in the ECW arena what we were doing, what we were a part of. We had no idea. It was a really good time, and it was really good wrestling and wrestling we wanted to see. It wasn't what we had, and it was a complete underground counterculture of, we didn't want to be WWE fans. We didn't want to be WCW fans. We were ECW guys. This was our, the arena was our church, and that's where we congregated every week or 2 weeks or so and got together and enjoyed wrestling. And looking back on it, we didn't know at the time what we were doing. Just like, anybody connected with ECW has said, we didn't know what we were doing at the time. It was only after it had gone away that we sat and said, wow, we changed the business. And that's the whole thing now. We have been on this huge, just, again, to use the term, the tsunami wave rising up of professional wrestling, especially for I'll say the past 5 years. And every time we think that, okay, we've hit that peak. No, we're going higher. Okay, it can't go. No, we're going higher. Well, okay, no, we're going higher. And there's no signs of it slowing down. And that's the beauty of it. And culminating with, to tie it all back in, culminating to the fact now that we have our own 24-hour wrestling destination is kind of, I don't want to call it the cherry on the sundae because we're still a work in progress, but it's a hell of a milestone. It's a hell of a milestone for us as fans, it's a hell of a milestone for the industry and the people that are connected and working in it. And and yes, the IWC is aggravating, but even as aggravating as they can be, you cannot argue their dedication and their passion for the product and the people in it. But even if the most inane and ridiculous takes and everything, and just saying something just to get a response, but the underlying part of it is they're still fans. They're still at core, misguided as they may be, they're still fans. And that's the engagement that pro wrestling has always had. That, now it's like the world finally caught up to what we have known for a long time. That, it's not only entertainment viable, but it's financially viable. You will make money partnering with wrestling. And that's wrestling at any level, from the highest top of WWE and AEW all the way down to your indie promotion. They talk about NASCAR specifically and brand loyalty. People that, the sponsors of your favorite driver or favorite team, people will buy that product religiously, regardless. Even drivers that have been retired for 10 years, just because they drove the Hellman's car back then, they will buy today Hellman's mayonnaise. And that's exactly what wrestling. And that's exactly what wrestling is becoming. People, look into our own closets, look at our own walls. How much money and time we have invested in photos and pictures and autographs and memorabilia and Funkos and figures and T-shirts. It's the financial impact of it all. It's like, how do these cities justify spending all this money with WWE to come in and host a WrestleMania, a SummerSlam, a Royal Rumble, or even AEW, for that matter, for a Grand Slam, and All In, and All Out? Why? Because they know the fans will show up with screaming voices and fistfuls of money, ready to give it all to you. Here, take my money. You're going to do this. Here, take my money. Oh, you have a shirt. Here, take my money. And we see it. And even further to the point, Front Row and I go to WrestleCade every year down by him in North Carolina. And this is middle of Western North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham, which is nowhere near anything metropolis at all. Trust me, I made the ride from Jersey. Nothing. But they get 20,000 people. 20,000 over 2 days. Just and granted, they
and
do
it keeps getting bigger.
And getting bigger. And it just shows that, I always, and you have heard me say this, Steph, I'm a fan of vote with your wallet. If you're interested, you'll spend money in it. If you're invested in it, you'll spend money in it. If not, you're not going to spend your money. And wrestling fans have proven time and time again, we vote with our wallets. And
we do.
The whole world is really catching on to that fact.
Yeah, it's true. Wrestling fans. So I saw a meme a week or two ago that made me laugh. It was a reel on Instagram, and it said something like there's a statistic out there. I don't even know if this is true. It could have just been made up for the meme. That the average person spends like $300 a year on entertainment activities. And the meme was like, it said that statistic, and then it said, concert fans would like a word. And my response was, wrestling fans would like a word. We all spend way more than $300 a year on our wrestling fandom. Oh my God. And $300 a year, that's nothing. Nothing.
Yes.
Like
Neil spends that at a beer at one show.
Shows, like everything.
Yeah. And that's, and it's no different than, I mean, people have always collected, sports memorabilia, footballs, jerseys, helmets, cleats, special balls, special bats, special sticks, trophies, anything else. So it's no different. But wrestling fans, like I said, they and what makes me laugh more than anything, it's like all of a sudden, oh my God, wrestling fans spend money. No shit. We've been doing it all along. You just haven't noticed. And for the fact,
don't ask Neil how much he spent when we were at Full Gear.
Okay.
He was probably way too drunk to even realize.
Right, I'm just saying, $300. That's Neil for a show just in beer. He ain't even buying a T-shirt or anything. That's just beer.
Yeah.
Yes. And Lima absolutely laughs at that comment.
Neil was incredibly generous that night. I thank him greatly. We were at that Korean chicken place right in front of the entrance to the arena. Yeah. Neil paid for our meal and our drinks, bought me the Darby Allin hoodie, bought Trenda the Darby Allin hoodie, and that's on top of all the other beers and stuff that he had. So yes, I thank you, Neil. You're very generous.
But
that's my point. Wrestling fans will spend shit ton.
And yes, and that's on top of whatever we consume on TV or streaming or on YouTube. It's not by accident that we have so much wrestling available to us. But why? Because the viewership absolutely dictates that. Again, it's a very viable commodity to have wrestling on your platform, whatever platform that may be. How many of us legitimately would be subscribed to Peacock if it wasn't for WWE? I know I would.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. It may be close to canceling again.
But that so if it wasn't for WWE, you would have really no reason to hire.
No.
And that's
Not
true for any wrestling on any platform. I mean, you and I and like two other people pay every month for Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So
two other people.
Yeah, seriously, but we pay it.
I do.
And is it to watch every week? No, but more importantly, to me especially, it's worth the money because of the library. Yeah. And that's the value in it, kind of, to me. But the library's there, But I wouldn't have Peacock if it wasn't for WWE. And I resubscribed to Netflix because of Raw. I wanted to make sure I could watch Raw every week. And so
Netflix is something I already had. Like, I've had Netflix since pretty much the early days. Like, as soon as they went from the DVD service to like the streaming, like I got that was the first thing that I had when I couldn't even afford to get cable. But yeah, like we all have multiple streaming services that are specifically for watching various different wrestling shows.
Yes. And that's it. And that's the only thing, and I appreciate Peacock and I appreciate Netflix with all these other suggestions and the stuff they tell me. I'm not here for that. I'm here for whatever you have for wrestling. I don't subscribe to Max. I still watch AEW on cable on TNT or TBS. But, and I already have Prime Video because I'm a Prime member on Amazon. So that covers I'm not happy that they changed. I didn't know.
I'm not happy about it either.
I don't know what was wrong with Triller TV, especially all of us that went through the fucking Bleacher Report disaster that was their pay-per-views, and they finally seemingly got it right, and now they changed it up. But whatever, it's an evolving thing. Whatever. But I already have it, so I don't have to resubscribe to any of that. So when I'm
speaking of that, I honestly recommend, because AEW pay-per-views are not on Triller anymore for those of us in the United States, I honestly recommend getting it on YouTube. Like, I looked into getting it on Prime. It's the same price, but getting it on YouTube, it's an app you already have. It's not an additional subscription. Like, some people might not have Prime, but it's like, it's so easy to just like one click, go ahead and buy it on YouTube.
I know
they don't have any streaming issues.
Okay. Then you're the perfect person to ask this, because this was a question I had and it made me not do it. Is it really like a traditional pay-per-view thing? You go on YouTube, you find whatever their stream or channel is and click to buy off of YouTube?
Yeah. I mean, just like any other YouTube video that we watch, just like we're live right now on here. They have like the video available prior, right. just like when we schedule our video ahead of time, and you can see it on YouTube prior to going live. You click on it. I think it's kind of where like the subscribe button usually is for regular YouTube channels. There's a button that says purchase. You click that, it comes up with your, I have shit on autofill, so it comes up with my Google Pay immediately. So I just like literally 3 clicks and you've purchased it, and you're watching it right there on YouTube. But yeah, I was not happy with the change from Triller. It kind of took me by surprise, because like most of us split them, because Triller allowed for 2 people to be watching a live stream at the same time, and none of the other platforms allow it. None of them.
Yes, we tried.
But it is what it is. I mean, it's just a thing nowadays. We've seen Netflix has cracked down on password sharing. Disney Plus cracked down on password sharing. It's just all over the place. So it is what it is. But yeah, YouTube is incredibly easy to go on and purchase it and watch it on there with absolutely no glitching issues whatsoever. But yeah, anyway, back to what we were saying. So I wanted to mention, Kelvin put in the chat here about the WWE Vault. Yeah, I highly recommend to people to subscribe to the WWE Vault on YouTube. That seems to be kind of their main place where they put archives these days, since we don't have nearly as much on Peacock and on Netflix as we used to on the WWE Network. And also, I would point out that AEW has seemingly really started to post a lot of archives, like full matches, on their YouTube channel as well. So I saw this week on Ring of Honor's YouTube channel, they're posting the full matches of the FTR versus Briscoes trilogy. Yes. On AEW's YouTube, they're posting full matches of like some of the big matches in the history of AEW pay-per-views. So because we are in an age now where there's a lot of new fans kind of tuning in for the first time, both in WWE and AEW, there's just a lot of new people discovering wrestling for the first time. AEW seems to be really kicking it up a notch in posting full matches on their YouTube for people who were not watching back then.
And that kind of makes sense, because, and we forget often, and I know I do, AEW is only going into its, 6th year almost?
Yeah.
So, and they've had previously great, spectacular matches that you would like to see again, but really haven't been. But they have built that library. They have, fortified and are able now to present that library, and they should do very well with it. Because I know I'm going to go back, and I have seen literally each match a dozen times, but because it's one of my favorite trilogy of matches, dude, there is nothing, bar none, there is nothing as good as the FTR Briscoe Brothers trilogy. Nothing. Yeah. Nothing in tag team wrestling even comes close.
So good.
To that trilogy, and finishing it the way it did,
and now there's a whole other emotional element to it. Obviously, when we go back and watch it,
you're watching a man no longer with us at his very best, absolute very best.
That third match was just, oh my god, that was one of the best things I've ever seen.
I hope they put in the archives the the Jay Briscoe tribute match that they did. Where, oh, hell nah, we ain't doing it that way. We restart this match came out with them. You know, and that's, you know, that in itself, and that was a completely one-off match that turned into an absolute classic.
Yeah. All right, so we shall wind down now. It is.
Wow, we have no wrestling to watch.
We have no wrestling to watch tonight. I think the only thing we talked about, the only thing that's really on tonight, major shows anyway, is PW Revolver. For anyone that watches that, it's on Triller.
Yeah, they're doing their
it's part of Triller Plus,
Texas Wrestling Revolver show tonight.
Yeah. But Ace Austin's not on that show, so.
Well, yeah, you're not interested.
I'm not interested. All right, so.
Well, any show that doesn't have Ace Austin on, you're not really that interested in, to be fair.
You know,
it doesn't matter what promotion, just.
I can't help it that the man has the best legs in professional wrestling. I can't help
Does have some fucking thick ass quads on him. Good God.
All right. So, yeah, that's pretty much our show. It's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a year so far. I agree with what, let me just go back here. Hold on. So I think it was Kelvin that put in the chat earlier that this year will go down in history. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. We're not done yet.
I absolutely agree with that.
We're still in the first half. We still have
just the first
6
half
months to go. And
but,
already know that we have huge shows coming up, you know, all in Texas. Evolution, Saturday night's main event. SummerSlam that we will somehow be taking part in. You know, and beyond.
SummerSlam weekend is going to be off the hook no matter what we end up doing.
We are going to be drunk in public for Neil's birthday.
Yes, Neil's birthday. We will actually be with each other.
Yes, and be absolutely piss drunk in public. And I cannot wait. I'm bringing bail money.
Yeah, someone will need that. So GCW that Friday night before SummerSlam is Bear Bronson versus Mance Warner. And I logistically I have to figure out if I'm able to go. We'll have to discuss that.
Right.
But even if we're not able to actually go to the show, we have to find a way to watch that. No matter what we're doing,
on Triller Plus.
We have to find a way to watch. Yeah. We might be very inebriated by that point in the evening, but we have to find a way to watch that night if we don't end up actually going. And yes, Neil.
Extra douchey beer.
There will be extra douchey beer for you guys that night.
Free flowing, as the kids say.
Yes. I can't wait to see y'all SummerSlam weekend.
Yes,
for anyone that's
cool.
able to go. It's always amazing so much
when
fun.
we all get together. Yeah, it's always amazing.
Whenever Busted Open decides to get their act together and make some solid plans, we'll know what those plans are.
And this might be a little bit of a flex, and I might be in petty. Total with Tom, Greek Savage, and all of you hangers on talking about being first in line. Yeah, you were first in line behind us. Okay? Let's just leave it at that. Take your ass whooping and get back of the line. You don't come ahead of us ever.
No.
Ever.
No.
I mean, good guys. Don't get me wrong.
One of us is always first in line.
Shout out to Baltimore. Chris, you know we love you. And she will literally get up at the crack of dawn and park her ass in a chair that I give her in front of a particular venue to make sure. And this has been proven time and time and time again.
That woman does not play.
We take over and everybody else falls in line behind us. And that's how it goes, people. Don't question it. You may not like it, but learn to love it.
It's true.
It
Chris
is.
sat her ass down in that chair, had herself some donuts and coffee. She was there.
And a cigar, and my girl was happy. And I'm just waiting on my crew. They'll be here. Don't worry. I'm the advance party.
Yep. Exactly. All right. How can people find you?
Me, I am at Twisted Mother Fab on the Instagram and the Twitter. And in an announcement, the most dangerous weapon in all professional wrestling. Of course, I am talking about the AK-9K, the Ass Kicker 9000, is going on tour.
Oh.
My dear friend, the American Kaiju, Florida man herself, Lindsay Snow, has graciously adopted AK-9K and thinks as she is making her tour of various deathmatch promotions that she has coming up, that she needs a friend with her on the road. And AK-9K will be accompanying her to all the shows. So,
hell yeah.
if you're going to see Lindsay, you're going to see my leg. And maybe it's lucky, and if you ask her real nicely, she'll hit you with it.
If you see Lindsay Snow, you'll be seeing John's leg. That's fun.
That's how we roll. Shout out to the American Kaiju.
Yeah. All right. And I am at That's So Debonair on all the socials, Instagram, the Twitter machine, the Blue Sky, everywhere. I'll be posting all the, the pro wrestling hot takes, I guess, and thirst posts as well. So yeah, that's it. Have a good night.
Later, folks.